sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenixes that you are. Hey everybody, welcome. This is Andrew David, Blake Newmark's partner program. We're actually 15 minutes into the call. We've been talking marketing gems, but you missed it because you weren't on live. With that said, we're going to continue on. Rick, go ahead. You were saying.
Okay, so here's what I'm doing in the media. Got to remember, yeah, there may be more than one or two people in a particular area that are actually doing what you're doing, but what we do is we create articles about their particular business in that area, and we might use up to, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but we might use up to maybe 100 different hooks or key phrases specific to that dentist.
Right.
So when somebody's looking for a dentist, say I live in a certain district of New York or something like that. I might say I might go online to say, find me a dentist in this particular district in New York that specializes in implants. So what's happening is, because we're writing an article that's specific about them, those articles get pushed up to about 300 to 500 different news feeds. So when somebody goes to look for them, they're going to find them right away.
Yeah, and so if you're acting as a digital agency and you're trying to get them extra exposure and SEO and everything,
exposure is what we're after.
Right. Most of these guys, we only got a handful of members that may end up doing something like that. But even with that, you're still not overcoming compelling message. Maybe you help them feel a little bit more visible, but we got to change the messaging, right? So what we're talking about is the initial identification to be able to get to the point where you can explain that's what you're going to do, right? That's the hurdle we've got to overcome before you can get on with them and say, hey, I can get you exposure on 100 different blogs, articles, etc. Those are going to give you backlinks. That's going to help drive your SEO. Driving your SEO is going to be great, but I'll also tell you, unless their messaging changes on their site or they've got the right follow-up in place, they're not going to close as many as they possibly could, right? Having the right kind of branding, marketing message ahead of that will increase that conversion. Oftentimes, most of these businesses with the right messaging, the right follow-up, could increase their bottom line right now by 20 to 30% without spending extra money on advertising.
So I'm going to interject here for a moment, because one of the things I'm making a bit of an assumption here. So my main focus is really getting somebody with high ticket service in a local area that already has the first three pieces figured out. They already have their message, their target audience, and their offer kind of pretty much figured out. So what once you have that figured out, then it becomes the problems becomes, how do you become more visible? So assuming you already know people, you already figured out what makes you special, then it becomes a matter of creating awareness of how you exist.
Yeah, absolutely. But the pain points you gave us were they didn't have a message, they didn't have the target.
I know, but then we delved into one specific niche, and that specific niche generally has those three figured out.
Okay. I would still say that most of those, at least the ones that I've worked with, and you've probably worked with more, but I do the addiction recovery, but I also work with others in medical. So med spas, dentists, doctors, etc. Most of them don't know anything about what sets them apart other than I'm here, I've been in business this long, or we've got this many dentists here. And that's it. Like they don't know anything. Right.
That's true. I'll give you that. Yeah.
So until they've worked with someone like you to get there, right? Or someone like me, or someone like, so most of these businesses, guys, they don't know what makes it compelling for, like, they don't have an offer yet. A lot of them are getting traffic because they're the only ones in the area, or they're one of the few, or they're paying for ads, but then it's not converting and they can't figure out why, because their message sucks. They don't have follow-up in place. And so someone gets there and bounces and doesn't have follow-up in place. How many of you guys have ever been in a funnel from a dentist where there's an email drip? How many of you guys get contacted by someone in the medical industry to say, hey, not just like a year out, oh, it's been a year since you've been here, you should come back, right? And yet there are some that are doing that, and chiropractors that are doing it, and others that are doing that on a consistent. My barber, I talked about this the other day, right? Like someone made a comment and he's got a funnel. He's got like an email news, like I don't know if he is. I'm actually going later today. I'm going to ask him if he's writing his own copy. but he's got his marketing in place. Even if he wasn't the best barber, I'd be going to that guy just because he's a good marketer, right? But it's one of those few people that gets it. This is the world that we're now in. So how do you help them find that, Rick?
When I'm finding a lot of dentists, and I'm getting a lot of this myself, just directed at me from dentists, I get a lot of direct mail
Direct mail?
from dentists and medical people, like a lot of like
You're getting like postcards and stuff,
postcards,
right?
yeah, a lot of that.
But is there an actual compelling message, or is it 100% price driven?
No, there's
If you think about it,
some of
it's
them
like-
have good copy.
Okay. So then it's follow up and everything else, but we're trying to help them on the digital standpoint. So, okay. So we've got then procrastination, action stuck, targets, no energy. Yeah. So David, a lot of owners a lot of business owners procrastinate what they need to do from a marketing and sales perspective because they're not comfortable with it. So how do we help them become first comfortable with the idea and then what it's going to solve, right? So if this goes back to what we were talking about with time, and yesterday, I think it was Rick brought up time management, right? They're busy. So I'm not going to just try and get them extra clients because the first thing they think is more work, right? So I'm going to decrease the amount of work through marketing. It's going to be done the right way, right? Something that you can hand off to your office manager or have the kids do it, or just this once it's all set up. And then it becomes, like Blake talks about, a machine, right? A machine means I can get it set up, I can turn it on, and then there's just maintenance. So that's something that a lot of these people can understand, having a system in place so that it's not time consuming. What if you could increase the average dollar amount you receive per client? Well, then that's a little bit different. Then I can work a little bit less, right? So I just talked to somebody yesterday on the very subject. I was having a hard time trying to find my niche to get directed down to have a message. Were you able to find a niche, Jamie? So I was good at getting things accomplished, but it's increased dramatically since I've been devouring that book. The Big Leap you're talking about, John? Yeah. Go read it. So working with veterans. Yeah. So, okay. Veterans. And I think veteran owned businesses, I think could be an awesome niche. The same thing. So you have like veteran owned, women owned, Christian owned, minority owned, like there's all these different niches like that. We're in an area now. We're in a day and age where groups, Facebook groups that are out there like that, they're rooting for each other. They're trying to help each other out. But so now we're talking about, so like Jamie, you're bringing that up. Now we've got on top of any one of these niche categories. So women, veterans, single moms, minority, Christian, or we have others that are doing other religions too, that are large enough to support a group. Now we have the obstacles that they have as a business owner, plus whatever the group typical obstacles are. So in the cases of veterans, you would probably have dealing with PTSD, dealing with reintegration into society, working with family, friends, disconnect from this, that. So it's touching on all of those topics and finding either giving them some ideas, things that you've done, things that you've overcome. I would say probably a lot of them want to, but it's trying to help them. They may not vocalize it, right? People. So, and what type of help are you putting in front of them, right? So I want to help you with your business. And then here, I'm just here and I'm supportive and I understand all of the other things because I've been through them as well, right? So it depends. When we get into that, and I'm assuming here, Jamie, just based off of previous conversations that we've had, that part of the help that you want to provide is on that personal development, mental, and everything else, right? And so then, and that's where kind of like with one of mine, I've got, it just with the addiction recovery, it just depends on how deep into that side of it you're wanting to get, while staying true to I want to help you with your business. But I want to help you with your business.
She was mainly saying like to find something that was like having to do with coaching or like life coaching and stuff, that I can have anything that relates to my past that has to do with anything that can bring them to helping them with anxiety, depression, post-traumatic, and can relate to what they're going through, to bring it to what has to do with anything that they may be relating to now. So she said, even if it has to do with women entrepreneurs that are veterans, and then trying to narrow it, I just can't figure out how to narrow it down. Like where you guys talk about having to like have this broad veteran conversations and narrow down the niche, and I'm having
I don't know if you need to
narrow it
personally, I think going veteran would be narrow enough. And then if you, once you're in it for a little bit, if you're getting more response from women that are vets, then that's great. Then you start to focus a little bit more there. If you get more from somebody else within that niche, then that's fine too. But I would think, because veterans are across all spectrums as far as what types of businesses they own, I think getting in groups that are veterans and veteran
Military.
entrepreneurs, I think would be niched enough to begin with, instead of trying to get too far down the rabbit hole of a very, very specific niche within something that's already a niche.
Okay.
Right? Until you get a little bit of kind of traction
But
within it, I wouldn't worry too much about it.
So then that's where I get lost in the pain points, because there's so many pain points, but I don't know if I should just keep it more broad or if I should find direct pain points. If
Well,
there's
so pick a handful. The thing is, and again, it's getting too deep into the weeds almost if we're like, because there are a bunch of pain points. So pick a handful that are more relevant to you, but then you continue to pay attention. And this goes for just about any industry, with real estate agents. Well, I'm going to talk about the main pain points that people have is getting, how do they stand out? How do they get the, buyers, sellers, etc. But then I'm going to pay attention to what's going on in the news, in the industry, and all of that. So if something else comes up, if there's an article or whatever, I can bring that in, and it's not going to be out of place because I'm still talking about, people overall. And this is where, some of my content is to help them specifically with their marketing, and some of it is to help with these other elements, right? That are just things that are important. Pick the ones that are important to you, Jamie. Pick a handful that you think are important to you, that you've seen over there within the niche, and then run with those. And then if you decide to change them, you change them. But your message is, I want to help veterans with their business. One of the ways that I do that is this. The reason why is this, because of my background at XYZ. So I want to see you overcome no matter what. And here you go. And then every once in a while you help them find a solution for something that may not just be changing their Facebook profile. Right. So that's kind of how I would approach it. So systems are the linchpin. Helpful Guide is the ultimate sales machine by Chet Holmes. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to continue this a little bit more tomorrow, guys. I'm going to ask you guys to send me, people don't want to be taught. They want to just, okay. Yeah. So what I was saying at the very beginning, I'll just say that so it's on the recording. People don't want to learn. They want to have it revealed. They don't want to be taught. They want to discover. People aren't looking to research. They want to find. Right? You've got to look for, and I'll find a list. I've got a list somewhere, but there's a list of kind of those words, that offer from a copy perspective, what you're writing and how you're putting it out. It offers the solution right away to them, even if there is a process. Okay. So and people know it inherently, but it's the whole reason why get rich quick things are still available out there, is because people don't like work. But from a business perspective, I'm not trying to create more time and put more crap on their table. I'm trying to give them a solution. And that's what that solution, gives them time, cash flow, gives them more energy, less stress, that kind of thing. So anyway, send me guys if we have any other pain points, send them to me in Skype. Someone post those questions in Skype. This is what I'm looking for. We're looking for pain points, specific pain points, and what you think might be a solution. If you can come up with both, that's great. If you're not sure, message in there, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more tomorrow before we get into things. This can be helpful. Was this helpful, guys?
Yep.
Looking how we're looking at things. Okay. Utilize this when you're talking with your people. Get into some of these groups and find, if you want to look for pain points, get into the groups and then see what they're bitching about. That's their pain points. Oh my gosh, 12 people in the last 2 weeks all brought up this same thing. If you see one person complain about something, then you see a crap ton of comments below it, that's a pain point. Okay. Just because it's not necessarily a pain point for you doesn't mean it's not for them. So find that. All right. Appreciate you guys. Go out and have an amazing day. We will talk soon. Bye-bye.
Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenix of staying.